Welcome back to the Curiosity Portal, Season 1, Episode 3. Who told you that was true? In this episode, we're going to be diving deeper into beliefs and the layers in which they create, where they come from, how they impact our subconscious, which in turn impacts our day to day lives and the reality we experience. So, beliefs. I like to call these the invisible rules. I want you to think of beliefs like blocks of information, Legos of information that are built into the system, and it shapes the way we experience and we perceive reality. Beliefs can be information such as, I'm not good at that. Money is hard to make. People always leave. I have to work incredibly hard to succeed. I'm just an anxious person. I'm not creative. I'm bad at relationships. I have to be perfect to be worthy. This is just who I am. I want you to really, really think here. How can these get solidified into our minds and actually impact reality? So, let's say you have this belief that romantic love is hard and chaotic. Maybe you learned that from a parent figure growing up who had their own tumultuous relationship. Over time, it's been repeated to you, love is just hard. That's how it is. That's how it is. It's chaotic. And when you get that information repeated to you at such a formative age, you begin to believe this and you begin to see this as the ultimate truth. If your parent figure is struggling with this, and we do see our parents or guardians as the one who holds the ultimate truth when we're young, then this has to be true. Capital T, true. So you begin filtering every experience when it comes to romantic love as chaotic and hard, and you solidify that as truth in your mind, which shapes directly how you behave in relationships, directly what you take in. Relationships do, in fact, become hard and full of unpredictability when this is the lens you're looking at it through, creating a pattern of relationships, hardships in your life because that's all you know is true. Like this is all you know. Now take someone who grew up learning that romantic love is safe and a blessing and a comfort with the right person. They've witnessed healthy relationships. They've learned what it can be for them. That person is far more likely to have a healthier time in relationships and to be open to a healthy and grounded connection because of what they've learned. And remember, the mind is not discriminating between healthy beliefs or unhealthy beliefs. The mind is literally taking what it's learned in the past, like we've talked about in the last episode, and repeating that and projecting that onto the future because it's keeping you safe. What are the two things that the brain does for us? It keeps us safe and it wants to conserve energy for us. So, how is this belief system keeping you safe? Because it's all you've seen before. It's what you've learned before. So now I want to know, like, who told you that was true? And is this true for everybody? This is key because if something is really, really true, capital T, like a solid fact of reality, think about gravity, okay? Gravity affects all of us, no matter what, no matter our class, our race, our ethnicity, no matter how much money we make, gravity is affecting us all. It is a true fact in this 3D plane that we live in. Gravity exists for everybody, no matter what. But is the belief romantic love is hard and chaotic true for everybody? Of course not. There's an abundance of people that are in healthy, happy, and safe relationships. Therefore, this cannot possibly be capital T, true belief of reality. This cannot be gravity. Do you see what I'm saying? So, finding examples of people who might believe the opposite of what you do and seeing how that plays out for them in reality can be really helpful towards changing your own mind here and your own belief and your own internal state of being. So let's take another example, and this is one that I'm actually working through myself. I have to work incredibly hard to succeed. Growing up, I saw my dad, and he worked tirelessly for our family, and he would be exhausted, and he would put career over our family because that's how he thought he could support us best. So I witnessed that growing up, and in my adult life, in jobs and other projects, I've often just worked myself to the point of burnout and anxiety with very, very, very little return because that's just what I've thought in society we have to do. The truth, okay? No. Looking around and seeing the amount of people that are working and they're in an aligned way, a healthy way for their body, their mind, their soul, and they're making an impact in their field and they're working in ways that flow best for their own energy. So, of course, I'm like, well, that seems unfair. Like, why do they get to work in such a way when everyone should be working hard? Everyone should be working hard because that's what I've learned. And seeing it as unfair can actually start to happen when you see people with different beliefs because you think the way that you were brought up to believe certain things is the correct way, is the truth. And that's often like echoed in media and culture and things like this growing up, that we just are in this bubble of like, this is true, this has to be true. So when you see someone that's doing something the opposite of what you believe, like they're working in a relaxed way, but they're making a huge impact and they're making money and they're comfortable and they're happy and they're taking care of their bodies and they're taking care of their minds. You're like, well, that's not fair. Like, that's not how it's supposed to be. So it requires this sense of stepping out of yourself and your own worldview and thinking, like, wait a minute, there is no right or wrong. There is no right or wrong here. It's just changing yourself and your mindset to see, like, oh my gosh, there are other ways of doing things. So looking for proof and evidence that other options are available, because other options are always going to be available if it's not a capital T truth. If it's not gravity. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So this starts with recalibrating the lens and the beliefs that you experience things through. And sometimes beliefs can be really easy to identify, but sometimes they can be invisible, these invisible barriers. Like me thinking I have to work extremely hard to succeed. I just assume that that's the way life works. That's the way this society works. That's the way we all have to, function. But that's false. I never questioned if it was true. Even when I saw evidence of it being true, I was just like, well, that's not fair. But it's a sneaky one because sneaky ones can look like success has to be difficult. You have to sacrifice your freedom to make money. Relationships can eventually become boring. You have to work yourself to the bone, exhaustion. I'm too late. I'm not disciplined. I always procrastinate. Like, these are sneaky little ones. These are ones where you actually are like, this is true because this has to be true in reality. But it's not. The crazy thing about beliefs is we don't experience them as beliefs. We're not like, this is what I believe kind of vibe. We experience them as our reality. We experience them as this echo chamber that's constantly echoing this information back to us. When your mind is accepting a conclusion and it's drawing it as true, it's impacting those filters in your brain that we talked about in episode 1, that reticular activating system, that bundle of nerves. So you're literally filtering information to match these beliefs. So you're living in a cycle of your own created reality, so to speak. Beliefs form like this. So you have an experience, and this experience is leading to an interpretation. An interpretation is giving birth to a repetition because the brain is conserving energy by repeating the things you've learned, which then creates a belief. Okay, so example, a kid raises their hand in class and they get the answer wrong in the school days. The experience is, I got the answer wrong, but the interpretation might become, I'm bad at school. Repeated experiences might eventually become, I'm not smart. And eventually, I'm just not an intelligent person. Now it's moving away from this event, getting the answer wrong, into this identity. So that's where things become like crazy, because once a belief becomes part of your identity, you begin to behave in ways that reinforce that. So, where do our beliefs come from? Let's go back to the basics here. What is the root? Okay, there's so many different routes that they form in the mind. So number 1, family. What did you hear repeatedly growing up? Maybe it's money doesn't grow on trees, or be realistic, or people like us don't do things like that. Don't trust people. Work hard and you'll be successful. That's just how our family is. Okay. Number two, culture. We are always receiving messages in our specific cultures of what it is when it comes to success, beauty, relationships, money, aging, productivity, status, what a normal life looks like. And most of these messages are so common. We're in this cultural bubble, right? That we don't even recognize them as beliefs. We don't recognize them as these Lego blocks. So, another one, school. And this is where labels really start to become a thing, like smart or dumb, popular or awkward, athletic or unathletic, creative or not creative. A label that we get in school can become a self concept. Self concept leads to identity. And another one, significant emotional experiences. So we talked about the subconscious and we talked about how deep emotion, right, leads to a rule in the brain. So, like a big emotional experience. For example, like if you trusted someone so deeply and they hurt you, that can become people can't be trusted. Or I tried something and failed can become I'm not capable. So the brain really likes to create meaning out of experience because how else are we going to create meaning? How else are we going to understand without first experiencing and feeling? And I want to stress that the meaning that your brain has created is not always accurate. And most of the time, it's not accurate at all. It's just this meaning that you've given something. So then these beliefs can lead to a self fulfilling prophecy. So, okay, belief leads to expectation, which leads to behavior, which leads to outcome, which leads to reinforcement. For example, you have this belief I'm terrible at meeting new people. And your expectation is because they probably won't like me. So, what does that create in your behavior? It's going to create someone who's quieter or more avoidant, a little bit guarded when you're in social settings, right? The outcome is when you have these walls up, you're not going to connect deeply with people. And that's going to lead to the interpretation see, I am bad socially. The belief gets stronger, and suddenly, something that started as a belief begins producing real life experiences that prove that belief correctly. For example, you're not connecting with people because of that behavior, of that quieter, guarded avoidantness based on what you had already thought. It's a self fulfilling prophecy, it's a loop. So the belief then creates evidence for itself and actually solidifies as your identity. Like, this is so crazy. This is crazy stuff. And the cool part about all of this is we have the power, right? We have the power to change, we have the power to transform. But in order to transform comes a place of understanding. And that's what we're doing here today. We're understanding what what all of this means and how it creates this loop pattern. So, okay, there's a major difference between I struggle with consistency, for example, and I'm an inconsistent person. The latter, describes a behavior, right? And the second describes an identity, or like I've struggled with money versus I'm bad with money, or I've experienced unhealthy relationships versus I'm terrible at relationships. The second versions are so much more powerful because they tell the brain, this is who I am. This is who I am. And once something becomes identity, we tend to protect consistency with that identity. Okay, which brings you to this really powerful thought process here. What if you're not trying to be someone new? Okay, what if you just are trying to stop reinforcing this old definition of yourself? So the voice in your mind telling you that you're not capable, or you're not worthy enough, or that you are bad with money, or that people always leave you. That's not true. That is not true. That's just this voice coming from these beliefs, which is it's repeating things that you've learned along the way. Learning along the way, the brain is going to repeat things and project things into the future based on the past because it sees that as safe. You've survived this. You've survived up to this point. So we're going to make sure you continue to survive by reinforcing these things. Crazy. Kind of powerful stuff. And when it comes to replacing a belief system, you don't need to believe the opposite. In fact, sometimes when we switch it and we want to believe the opposite full on, it's a little bit challenging for the subconscious mind to wrap the mind around. So, for example, if someone believes I'm terrible at everything, they don't need to immediately replace that with I'm amazing at everything, because the subconscious is like, whoa, 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 whoa. We literally were just here, and now we're stepping to the complete opposite. I'm itching. I'm glitching because that makes no sense. So therefore, we're just gonna retract. And when you retract, the nervous system gets hyperactive. You get into that fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and it stresses your system out. So instead, you want to build bridge beliefs, I call them the bridge. So, for example, if someone believes they're terrible at everything, they can start to replace that with, I'm capable of learning. You know what? I can become better at this. Maybe this isn't as fixed as I thought. And I'm allowed to see myself differently. I'm allowed to see myself differently. These baby bridge steps, that's going to ultimately lead to the result that you want, because you're taking a step at a time. You're not like leaping through the forest and transforming everything at once. No, we have to prove to our mind, we have to prove to our brain, and we have to prove to our nervous system that we are safe. We're safe to become someone entirely different than who we've been, but we're going to take it a step at a time. The bridge belief, it's going to help your nervous system to feel safe. That's ultimately what it boils down to, why we want to take it a step at a time. So now I'd like to do a little audit of our beliefs. And this is really helpful if you want to write this down, because writing, actually putting pen to paper, impacts the subconscious a lot more than maybe typing on a computer. Although I will say, do this on your computer or type it up if that's more helpful for you. So I want you to choose one belief that's currently limiting you. Like maybe I'm bad with money or something like that. So number one, what do you believe? I am blank. Number two, who taught me this? Where did I learn this from? Was it a parent? Was it a teacher? Was it a partner? Was it society? Was it my culture? Was it an experience? Was it something I've repeatedly told myself? And number three, what evidence do I have? What evidence do I have? And not just evidence for the belief. I want you to really look into what evidence contradicts this belief. Does every single person in the world believe this to be true? And I want you to find examples of people that don't believe this. And I want you to write down what they're doing. And this is going to slowly teach you, whoa, ding, ding, ding. You know what? Okay, maybe this isn't true. Maybe this is just a lens that I've learned to look at the world through. What does this belief cause me to expect? So, how are you in this experience right now having expectations and outcomes because of this belief? And number five, how does that expectation change my behavior? So we want to look at this belief and what is your brain projecting onto the future because of this belief, and how does that change the way you behave? Going back to the example of the person who said they're not good socially, or whatever I said earlier, and how their expectation changed their behavior to be quiet and more like reserved, right? So number six, who would I be without this belief? And this one's a crazy one, because when you're writing down who would you be without this belief, it's going to cause some serious, serious light bulb moments in you. It's going to cause so much clarity for you, this question, because you're seeing yourself through an entirely different lens. And you're not only seeing yourself through a different lens, you're seeing the person that you could be, the person that you will be when you kind of release and let go of this. And that's a really, really freeing thing. And then the really powerful question here: what would I have to believe about myself for the life I want to feel possible? So if I believe I'm bad with money, for example, but I want to have this free and abundant life where I can travel a lot more, what would I have to believe about myself for this life I want to feel possible? In order for that to feel possible for me, I would have to believe that I am capable of handling money. I am capable of creating money, and so on and so forth. So I want you to list all of that out. Okay? And you can do this multiple times for multiple beliefs. And the more you do this, and the more you start to work with those bridge beliefs, those small steps that we're taking to change, to get to that bigger picture, the more you're going to feel safe. The more you're going to feel safe, and the more it's going to feel natural. Okay? Transformation it's not about becoming someone else. Not always, right? We do want to become a different version of us. But transformation can be as simple as remembering the version of yourself that you were taught to be is not who you can be. All of this is fake. Everything that we've learned, everything that we're experiencing, we're all making it up as we go. So why can't you make up rules and beliefs and things that will serve you and that will serve other people? And the more you help yourself, the more you help others. And then it's just this huge, I want to say love fest. It's this huge cycle of transformation at a massive level. They're beliefs that you've inherited, beliefs that you've absorbed, beliefs that you've created to protect yourself, beliefs that you've adopted because you didn't know there wasn't another way, or there was another way. But a belief is not permanent. It's not a life sentence. You're not stuck believing certain things. Like, you can change these. You're the builder. And I'm here to remind you and give you evidence throughout all of this that creating a new belief for yourself is possible and likely. And especially if you're listening to this, I know that if you're listening to this, like, you're already on your way. You're already on your way, and you have so much potential and so many bigger things ahead for you. And everything is just gonna fall into place. You're already there in your mind, okay? It's just the action, right? So the next time you hear yourself saying these extremes, like, I'm just not that kind of person, or I'm just this, pause, and be like, whose voice is this? Who told me that? And why do I believe it? And how much evidence have I had to have in my life for this to be true? And you know what? I reject that. And I'm going to start taking the steps, step by step by step by step, and creating the belief system and the life that I really do want for myself. Because I know my brain is trying to keep me safe. And I know my brain is trying to conserve energy. Two major functions of the brain. But like, now I have the tools to help my brain feel safe step by step by step in this new creation process. So maybe the life that you're trying to create, it doesn't require you to become someone completely different. It just requires you to question these beliefs that have been defining what's possible for you. You don't have to believe everything you've been taught about yourself. You get to question, you get to choose again and again and again and again and again. And that's where your reality is going to shift and change. Okay, so I really hope this episode sparks some insight within you. And until the next one, thanks for listening.